The first Sunday edition of Breakfast Extra for 2025. A new year is upon us, a blank slate, fresh opportunities, and of course, fresh drama because, hey, this is Nigeria. If you survived 2024, well, give yourself a round of applause because you've earned it. You deserve more than just a medal. You deserve a full tank of petrol, perhaps, and maybe stable electricity. But I think we'll take baby steps. Let's not rush it. Now, let's not sugarcoat it. 2024 was a masterclass in testing the resilience of every Nigerian. Remember the fuel price hikes? 670 naira per liter quickly became wishful thinking as we soared to 1,100 naira and even more in some parts of the country. Thanks to the removal of subsidy that was supposedly holding us back. And then there was the electricity tariff hike. Well, like we weren't already paying for darkness. Plus, there was inflation skyrocketed to 34.6% by the end of the year, dragging with it the price of everything from bread to rent. And let's not forget the endless queues at banks, the dwindling naira, disappearing functioning ATMs, yes, we were looking for those all over the place, and the general vibe of if you can make it in Nigeria, you can survive anywhere. Oh, and yeah, by the way, let's not forget how the POS operators became millionaires overnight. But here we are, somehow, with our chins up, our hearts steeled, and our unbroken spirit. And we're told there's hope, a sparkly, polished hope, as was presented in the president's New Year speech. He reminded us of his administration's achievements. Yeah, the quotes are very necessary. And he also assured us that 2025 will be the year things finally turn around and fall into place. The relic refineries are supposedly springing back to life, crude oil exports are expected to strengthen the naira, and policies are apparently being put in place to rescue our economy. Or just pretend not to notice that the same people praising these policies are also the ones who helped run things into the ground in the first place. Well, speaking of praise, let's offer a big congratulatory clap to Mr. President, who was recently recognized on the global stage, being named a finalist for one of the world's most interesting leaders of 2024. What an honor. It's not every day you're mentioned in the same breath as some of the world's most innovative kleptocrats the world has ever seen. Well, we'll just say it's a special kind of talent to lead a nation in economic recovery while simultaneously being recognized for, shall we say, creative asset redistribution. Well, hey, sarcasm aside, we have hope. Not the naive kind, but the kind that's forged through fire. Nigerians, refined by the heat of adversity, well, we are now emerging more empathetic, more united, and more determined to hold leaders accountable. We've seen the power of collective action, and we've learned that the only way forward is together. Hand in hand or heart to heart, demanding better and settling for nothing less. So, if I had a glass, I'd be holding it up. Cheers to a new kind of Nigerian, the kind that pays attention to policies, questions every line item, and shows that this country can only move forward when its leaders are held accountable. Here's to us, the refined, resilient, and also relentless people of 2025. It's to you, the Nigerian. And on that note, let me bid you welcome to Breakfast Extra. My name is Mazino Pil, and as always, I will be joined by my delightful and insightful co-host, Judith Atibi. Let's dive into the news, the drama, and everything in between. Welcome to the show. And you're welcome. For our big report today, starting the show for a Saturday, or rather a Sunday edition, we focus on Borno State, where efforts to resettle displaced communities are gaining momentum. Now, the Nigerian police force has reiterated its commitment to supporting its crucial process, pledging to, increase its operational presence and also deepen interagency collaborations. Now, this promise comes as part of the force's broader strategy to ensure safety and stability in areas that were once ravaged by insurgency. The State Commissioner of Police, Mohammed Yusufu, disclosed this during the presentation of the Police Annual Crime Data Report for 2024, where a total of 721 crime cases were recorded in Borno State. With the new year underway, the police have outlined plans to bolster security and help create an environment where displaced families can now return, rebuild, and also thrive. So let's take a closer look at the report and the ongoing effort in Borno State. We'll be bringing that report put together by our correspondent, Umaru Kirawa. But joining us here before we show that, to provide more insight into how he gathered that report, is our News Central correspondent, Umaru Kirawa. Umaru, let's say good morning to you. How are you? Okay, I'm hoping that we can work on that audio so we can hear you. But let's take a look at that report now before we come into discussing about Borno State.
It's another successful day for officers and men of the Borno State Police Command. The Police Commissioner, Muhammad Yusufu, is out to brief the press on the command's successes in the year 2024.
The command has reported incidences of felonious crime, misdemeanor, and other simple offenses, totaling 367. Of this total number, 721 suspects were arrested, 257 charged to court, while 110 are still under investigation.
The report by the Commissioner indicated a continued focus on criminal activities such as armed robbery, kidnapping, and human trafficking, which have affected both urban and rural communities.
Our projection is in line with the IGP vision to reduce crime to the barest minimum nationwide, at least by 30%. Now, the command intends to sustain robust, proactive policing by ensuring that Maiduguri Metropolis maintain its stature as one of the safest and most secured state capital.
The security situation in Borno has seen improvement, with fewer incidents of insurgent attacks in the latter half of 2024. The Nigerian police force stressed that more work needs to be done to maintain security, especially in areas receiving displaced persons.
The Nigerian police force is the lead agency when it comes to internal security. So our projection for 2025 is how do we key in to this grand Borno restoration. To key into that one, we have to align with the transitional justice system by enhancing police presence in such communities where displaced persons have returned, and ensure that there is community participation in terms of our policing priority, as well as protection and promotion of human rights.
The police has urged the public to assist in the provision of timely information for response to aid in its crime-fighting efforts, particularly as many communities transition from displacement back to normalcy. In Maiduguri for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
And now, as before, introducing our News Central correspondent, Umaru Kirawa. Umaru, good morning to you once again. Let's see if we can hear you this time.
Yes, a very good morning,
Fantastic.
Mazino.
Thank you very much. We're also joined by Dauda Ilya, who is the spokesperson to the governor of Borno State. Mr. Dauda Ilya, you're welcome. Thank you very much for joining us this morning.
Good morning. Thank you for having me.
Good. All right, now, let's start with you, Umaru. What are the specific measures did you find out the Nigerian police force has put or outlined to improve the interagency collaboration of security in Borno State? If you could start by telling us that.
Well, first, State Commissioner of Police, Muhammad Yusufu, said, the police is the lead agency in terms of internal security, and it's critical in ensuring peaceful atmosphere for citizens to thrive, for citizens to go about their normal activities. But the case is slightly different for the situation in Borno, because Borno now is recovering from the years of insurgency orchestrated by the retrogressive Boko Haram insurgents, which have led to the displacement of millions of people, the death of unaccounted number of persons, teachers, so many people, destruction of communities, infrastructure like hospitals, so many things that were destroyed. But now the state is recovering from that pace. because Borno is gradually picking up from the years of the insurgency. Maiduguri, like the Commissioner of Police said, is one of the peaceful city centers within the country. And sustaining that is what they want to do, and expanding it, not only Maiduguri, the capital city, but providing police presence in all the 27 local government areas of the state, which he said is also part of the vision and plan by the Inspector General of Police of Nigeria. And so it's a good development. Their presence is one of the strategy of actually helping in restoring peace and then giving a sense of hope to the displaced persons. We can take example of the recent visit by the state governor and others. He led the delegation to Abaram in Bama local government area. That location was deserted. Nobody was there for more than 13 years. In fact, even to some extent on the way to Abaram, all of the vehicles stopped. There was something happened. The security forces were saying that the place is this, the place is that, and all of a sudden the governor took lead. He took charge. He drove the car. He was leading the entourage into the bush, into Abaram in his quest to resettle that community, and nobody was there in the community. As such, there is no way resettlement can take place. As such, the presence of security forces, the police, the army, and all other security personnel is critical in ensuring that the resettlement process succeeds. The resettlement process thrives because displaced persons in IDPs camp, and of course refugees in neighboring countries of Niger, Chad, and Cameroon are tired. They want to go back home. When we speak to them at the IDPs camp, they want to go back home. The visit I went to Chad recently, I spoke with some of the refugees. They want to go back home. They are tired of staying in restricted areas. They want to go back to pick up the pieces of their lives.
Kirawa, let's talk to the governor's spokesperson, and that is Mr. Ilya Daudu. I would like to know from a governance point of view what focus the government has when it comes to resettling people, especially as Kirawa has noted, the people who have left Borno who would like to come back to resettle.
Yes, thank you very much for the opportunity. One of the cardinal objectives of His Excellency, Professor Babagana Umar Azulum, is to resettle all displaced persons and refugees that are Borno indigenes back to their communities. And in 2024, His Excellency was able to resettle many communities, particularly in Dikwa, where Gajubo community was resettled, and in Bama, Ngurosei community was also resettled, and many other communities. And in 2025, His Excellency has a target. He said he wants to close down one of the biggest IDP camp in the state, which is the Bama IDP camp. Bama is the third largest local government area in Borno State, and is one of the local government areas that was severely devastated. I can say that the devastation in Bama is much more than in any other local government area. So the reconstruction work started when His Excellency was the Commissioner of Reconstruction, Rehabilitation and Resettlement. And up to now, the reconstruction effort is ongoing. But he felt that the people of Bama should at least go back to their communities. They don't need to continue to stay in IDP camps, because it's demeaning for a person that has a house, has a family, to continue to live in IDP camp. So he started with Ngorosei, he started with Banki, these are agrarian communities, these are business communities. So what he wants is not only to resettle them, but to give them a means of livelihood. Most of them are farmers. So what he started is this year, he started his first official working day in 2025 by visit to Abaram, like Kirawa has rightly stated. Abaram is about 10 kilometers away from Bama metropolis, and there was no human presence in that community for more than 10 years. And His Excellency felt that there's a need to resettle these people back to their communities. And he took the bull by the horn by visiting the devastated or the destroyed area of Abaram. He went there with the security chiefs and other community leaders of Abaram. So he observed and he studied the place, and he said there's a need to at least dig trenches so that there will be no infiltration of insurgents in that area, because the community is behind Kuru Muhammad Barak, one of the military barracks in Bama local government area. So he felt that the community should be settled and provide them with means of livelihood. Then he also visited Dara Jamal. Dara Jamal is also one of the largest community, one of the biggest community in Bama, which also borders part of Cameroon Republic. So he went there. Already construction work is ongoing. There is provision for schools and other social amenities, like the Commissioner of Police has rightly stated. First, what His Excellency normally do when he wants to settle community is to have assurance from the security agencies that this place is secured, provide civil authorities, which include constructing police station, courts, and other very critical infrastructure there. Then rebuilding of communities will start. More than 500 houses are currently undergoing construction there. So he wants to resettle the people of Dara Jamal. Then from there, he will proceed. There's a community called Mayanti, also in Bama. There's a community also called Kumshi, also in Bama local government area, and several other communities that he wants to resettle, so that there will be no presence of IDP camp in Bama local government area. All the people will go back to their communities, and like I know Kirawa has also reported that His Excellency has given farm inputs to over 5,000 farmers in Bama local government area. So these people cannot farm if they have not gone back to their communities. And as part of the effort to bring back refugees back to the country, there's a presidential committee on the resettlement and repatriation of Nigerian refugees back, and His Excellency is also the co-chair of that committee. So what they are doing is in 2025 to ensure that they have repatriated all Nigerian refugees back. Those are residing, they are taking refuge in Niger, in Chad, and Cameroon, so that they will also come back to their country and they will continue to have their normal life.
I mean, it's one thing to resettle and have a normal life. Another is a transition to acclimatize to, going back to, what is sort of alien at first, right? But I also like to talk about, the joint task force in this resettlement of Nigerian refugees, particularly the military, and what role are they playing here? How best, especially when you throw in insecurity in all of this.
Well, the military are doing a very wonderful job. Not only the military, we have other security agencies like the police, civil defense. Like you said, it's a joint operation. That is why it is called Operation Hiding Kai for the theater command here in the Northeast, where all the security agencies are operating under one roof. Likewise, the MNJTF also, is a joint operations between Nigerian troops, Chad, Cameroon, Niger. So they are providing security at the border communities. And like I rightly stated, Bama is one of the border communities. Banki specifically borders Cameroon. If you take far north, Baga, Kukawa, they also border Chad, part of Chad, and in the northern part as well, like Abadam, Damasak, the Nigeria borders, Niger, in that axis. So the military, they are doing a very wonderful job. In 2024, we have not witnessed any major security breach like we've used to experience in previous years. And that shows the gallantry and effort of the military ensure that there is total normalcy in Borno State and particularly at the border community. Fishing activities is thriving in Baga area, farming activities is ongoing in Damasak, and Banki commercial activities is ongoing. On our way to Bama, you see these heavy trucks moving to Banki area, that is the border community. So it shows that business activities is ongoing in all the border communities, and that's part of the singular effort of Nigerian military and other security agencies, and also troops of other sister countries.
Okay, Kirawa, I was wondering if you could give us an idea of what the anatomy of the community is like in these areas that Ilya has just spoken about. What kind of commerce happens in these places that would actually make the people want to come back? Because it's one thing to resettle, it's another thing for people to thrive. That would mean their businesses would have to thrive. So what is it like there when it comes to businesses or occupation?
You know, mostly these communities, like the SA Media and spokesperson to the Borno State Governor, Dodo Ilya, said, they are mostly agrarian communities. And, you know, the economy is not smiling, and people have to really work to survive. And depending on handouts or on government and aid by development partners, is no longer sustainable. That's what even the governor is saying. And even the people are yearning to go back home so that they can really pick up the pieces of their lives. Particularly areas like Baga is well known for fish. And we've done reports on fish in Baga. It's just that the communities down there are complaining that there is this lower denomination of currency in the area. And communities like Kukawa, communities like Banki, Bama is well known for onion farming. The Nguro say that the spokesperson of the governor said is well known for onion farming, and communities in particularly the border communities, the Gamborungala, the Kirawa, Banki, and others, they are well known for transborder trade, transborder businesses. As such, the communities, if people are there, they will really enjoy doing their businesses, earning their means of livelihood. And of course, self-sufficiency is better than depending on handouts. As such, there are so many things to enjoy while staying on their own in their communities, particularly if the communities are secured, safe for business, for farming, and you can. It's yesterday or day before yesterday that the governor flagged off the distribution of farm agricultural inputs to farmers, where he slashed the cost of liter of petrol to them in Bama for 600 naira per liter to the farmers. This is to encourage them to go back to the farm. As such, I think resettling them to their communities will go a long way in really helping not only the displaced persons, but also boosting the GDP of the country.
And lastly, let me come to you, Mr. Dauda Ilya, and ask about, the basic amenities. Are these being provided for them in these areas? I mean, and particularly healthcare, primary healthcare, amenities such as, schools, mosques, drinking water. Are these provided for to just help, with a smoother transition into these communities?
Yes, thank you very much. His Excellency Professor Babagana Umar Azalim, his resettlement drive is to ensure dignified return of the displaced persons. Hitherto, before the insurgency, most of these communities live in thatched and mud houses. But what His Excellency felt is these people are also requires, or they should have the basic amenities like any other citizen that should have in the country. So what he does is to construct a befitting house, minimum 2-bedroom housing units to each and every household, and also provide them with livelihood. Sometimes he gives livestock to these farming communities, particularly to the women. What he does is to give the women livestock, pair of goats, so that they will also have to earn their means of livelihood. And like you said also, schools is part of a criteria of every resettled community to have a school. For Dara Jamal, there's a provision for primary and junior secondary school in Dara Jamal, and also a primary healthcare center, so that the community can live in a peaceful manner. They don't need to be moving from one locality to other seeking for healthcare or education. And also there's also provision for market, particularly Dara Jamal. A shopping mall is also part of the plan to construct a shopping mall, but the community will also undertake business activities. And His Excellency, specifically in Dara Jamal, stressed one thing, that girl-child education is very important. And the school there is constructed, is supported and by the intervention of Agile. That is a World Bank project, so that the aspect of girl-child education will also be promoted, particularly in the resettled communities. Gone are the days when girls will just be abandoned, engaging in destitute and other activities. If His Excellency felt that the girl child should also be given education, they should have a means of livelihood. They should also, because what we have in Borno State is to have female-headed household, where the insurgents have killed many of their husbands and the heads of households. So we have female-headed household. So if you don't empower the women, certainly they will have challenge going forward. So that is part of His Excellency's effort to ensure that he empowers women, make sure that he gives them the needed education that they need, at least in secondary school, and also further their education. And that is why he also provided scholarships for Borno indigenous further their studies. All this are the entire package, complete package of His Excellency's effort towards recovery, towards restoration, to ensure that Borno, at least in the next 3-4 years, will restore its lost glory as the state of peace, hospitality, and development.
Mr. Ilya, while we're still on this topic of security and resettlement, we know that most of these communities are on the border with other countries. So what apparatus has been put in place when it comes to border control? We've seen instances in other states, like in Sokoto, where we have the infiltration of insurgents, a new kind of insurgents, the Lukarawas. So have there been any consideration given to these concerns?
Yes, the presence of multinational joint task force has really helped. And you know, the presence of multinational joint task force dates even before the emergence of Boko Haram insurgency. But now that they have been strengthened, and with also the presence of hybrid forces. What we call hybrid forces is these organizations that the groups, for instance, civilian JTF, hunters, vigilantes, which are very familiar with the terrain because they are mostly from that community. So with their help, the military is also strengthened because they have people that are familiar with that terrain. So the operations will be seamless. And that is why we've not had any major security breach in the border community. Like I told you earlier, Gamboru Ngala, business activities is thriving in Gamboru. Banki is also a border area. Business activities is thriving there. Baga also is a border area. Damasak, Mobile local government area, is a border area. So business activities is thriving along this border community. And that shows that the community is also aligning with the effort of the military, particularly the MNJTF, towards providing security in that area, so they are really supporting them. And as well, the military have also realized that there's a need to also provide security for these people so that they will also continue with their means of livelihood, because if the community is deserted, the military is also vulnerable to attacks. But with the presence of the community, with the presence of people, and they know that they are aligning with them, they are supporting the military, certainly peace will be restored in such communities. So with the presence of MNJTF and the hybrid forces, the situation is normalizing.
And I mean, gentlemen, I must say thank you for taking out the time and just to have this discussion with us. But finally, for you, Kirawa, have you been able to speak to any of the resettlers, and what have their thoughts been in just covering this report? What was something that you miss out in putting this report for us?
Well, I think I will need to do a follow-up story with time, so that I'll find out how they are picking up the pieces of their lives now that the government has provided agricultural input for them. So we'll have to, in the nearest future, we'll have to look at reviving agricultural activities in Borno, particularly in displaced communities, to look at how they are picking up the pieces of their lives. I think that is important.
Very important. Umar, many thanks for doing this with us. Umar Kirawa, our correspondent in Borno, Maiduguri, and then, of course, the spokesperson for the governor of Borno State, Mr. Dauda Iliya. Gentlemen, thank you for coming on. We appreciate you for doing this.
Thank you very much. We really appreciate it.
We'll switch gears now from our big report now to perspectives. And it's welcome. It's a segment where we hear directly from the people about the issues that matter most. And as we step into 2025, Nigeria faces a very critical moment, with challenges ranging from economic instability to security concerns. A question in everyone's mind is, what should be our national priorities to drive recovery and growth? And so to find out, we took to the streets of Lagos to ask everyday Nigerians, what do you think should be the top priorities and strategies for fixing Nigeria in 2025? And here's what they had to say. Let's hear from the voices of Lagosians.
It all depends on individuals. Already Nigeria is corrupt. The only solution to Nigeria's problem is basically on Nigerians. All those top officials that corrupt this country, all of them should be eliminated. And all this, if we take all these things into prayers, God will do his own part. God will do his own part, and we will do our own part.
If we can minimize the rate of corruption in Nigeria, you know, more especially from the apex, the leaders, our Nigerian leaders, they are so corrupt. And then they are having, it's like generally they are having this spirit of selfishness.
If you uphold honesty, if you are not too inclined to falsehood, if you are honest and would whatever we are doing, we do it with utmost honesty, I think we can go higher.
What I feel that people should do to make Nigeria better than what it is to have fear of God. Once we have fear of God, everything will be very easy. Because when you look at this one now, there's never a government that come to power that people says they were okay. It's one thing or the other. When you begin to look at them, they are almost the same thing, but it's not, because the only thing there is that they do not fear of God.
If I could fix Nigeria, what I will fix is the leaders around me, and then I would do the right thing I'm supposed to do, and then fix the leaders around me. If I happen to be the president, I will fix the leaders around me, my cabinet. Because if you are good, your cabinet may be bad. So, but if you are good and your cabinet are good, you are good to go.
I'm going to remove every corrupt personnel in this country. I will remove them. All those old men that spoil this country, they need to be removed in this country before Nigeria can be good.
I would like to empower people, skill acquisition that would enable individuals to stand to stand on their own.
Oh, I'm live. Well, welcome. I hope they didn't catch me doing the dance.
Oh, they did everything.
Oh, I'm done. In any case, welcome to the strips. That's why I'm back here. And of course, let me use this time to welcome once again Judith, because we're going to be doing this together, Judith. Have you seen the strips and what we're going to be talking about today? Very interesting. One of them in particular from Business Day caught my fancy. But first off, let me say that this is the first one for 2025, and we're hoping that all through the year you can also be a part of it by letting us know exactly what strips you'd like to see us talk about here. Let's get to the first strip for today. Judith will be joining me, but this is the one that I found very interesting from Business Day. There's two of them. And Business Day for 2024 did a lot of great cartoon reality instances turned into cartoonized digest form. Now, this one for 2025 are on our very first strips for 2025. Tell me now, who marked this script? And of course, you can see a very young, dapper, I don't know who that is, in quote, Mr. President. Remember now, this says, a hungry man is a happy man. And it says, I marked it, because this is the way things are going to be. I don't know if you see what I'm seeing here, but if you add the element of the governor's, or rather the president's 2025 New Year's speech, that you guys get used to the new normal. It will get better, but for now, don't worry, just get used to it. That's the translation I see here. Do you have another translation, Judith?
Same with yours, although I cannot see it. Yeah, blind.
Glasses.
Yeah,
glasses.
I lost it. I cannot see, but is it my president that even drew like this with the
backpack? Yeah.
I just can't get past it. Like, really?
Well, one of the best depictions of him we've seen, at least. This one is not too bad. I mean, it's not bad at all. I kind of like it. You know, it's rather respectful, if you ask me. Still. Wait until you see the rest, huh?
All right.
Let's take it to another one. Let's check this one out here. Now, this is from Business Day once again, and I suspect that is Asukwo. Asukwo is a cartoonist for for Business Day, and this is his own New Year's speech to every government official or anybody who's at risk of getting cartoonized in the dailies. And this is what he says. He says, fellow Nigerians, my fellow Nigerians, as the new year dawns, our elected officials must realize that their actions are under constant scrutiny and cartoonable offenses shall not be pardoned. They must stay accountable and transparent in order not to incur the wrath of sharpened pencils. God bless Nigeria.
The fact that his microphones are pencils are just beautiful. I absolutely love it. I mean, and I'm trying to count it. How many are there? Seven of them?
Seven? We're scoring them now. Okay, that's a new thing. We'll do this from now. But in any case, very interesting depiction there, and fantastic way to send that warning out to all the, unscrupulous elements out there in governance. However, inside of the prologue, there was a very interesting bit that I put there regarding 2025 and governance generally. Actually, it just skipped my mind. Tell you what, let's do the next one. I'll come back to that in just a minute.
Okay.
Now, what do we have? Of course, this one here. This is from Daily Trust newspaper. Is this accurate, Judith, do you think?
Oh, it's sublime. Just looking at us getting to the finish line, or rather the starting line of 2025, with all of that baggage.
Carry over.
You know, it's just the baggage, right? And then the person who's carrying it, look at how impoverished he looks.
I'm telling you.
Emaciated.
Insecurity, poverty, high cost of living, corruption. It didn't end in 2024. We're crossing into 2025 with it. How bad is it going to get, or how good is it going to get? Is it like you said yesterday, is it a half empty, half full kind of thing? Where do you see it? What would you take? Is it the half empty?
It's half empty.
Half empty? That's pessimistic, isn't it?
Have you met me?
I wasn't going to go there. She said it. But then, I would like to, I think I'm a half full type of guy when it comes to the issues in Nigeria. And here's where I was going from before when I forgot. I think we need a bit of time. whether you like it or not, there are certain reforms that have been put in place that seemed to be working at the end of the year. I won't say that everything is great, but I will say that perhaps maybe we give it this year and see where it goes. I'm hoping that the fuel prices stay where they are or even go down lower. I'm hoping they don't come back up to over 1,000 naira. And one thing from 2024 that you can take away is that every Nigerian is now his brother's keeper. I don't know if you can see that.
I'm not sure.
Well, you're a different breed, like you noted from before. But every Nigerian now knows that I have to hold these guys accountable, and I can only do it with my brother. I can only do it if you're by my side. So that togetherness is kind of like forming a new type of Nigerian.
Right.
These are my personal submissions.
Yeah, no, of course. And to be fair, it's great to have that, you know, that stance, right? Because when everything is bleak, one has to be optimistic, and one has to shine the light, because again, when you think about it in and of itself, you are, I mean, the faces, the perks of the job, and sometimes the bane of the job is that you must stay optimistic and put that front.
Exactly.
But the thing is that because we do this, I do hope that the policymakers and those in power do not take it for granted. And that's why I've chosen to take this sort of rigid stand, if you will, because there's no time anymore.
Okay.
Right? And the last quarter, or rather the last month, was a stark reminder that there was no time anymore. The cases of the stampedes, whether we say it's crowd control or anything, it really shows how hungry the people are.
That's a very indicative picture
of
what
our
Nigeria
society.
was.
You know, so as much as you're telling people to buy time, there isn't time anymore. You know, and as much as we're looking for this we're going through this rigid, this tough time. You have to find a way to, you know, appeal to the people and also make them see that I'm with you, I understand, and show you the austerity measures that you are taking as a leader. You know what I mean? That's what I'm asking for.
Very interesting word.
Can't be that hard now. I mean, come on now.
Austerity. Very interesting word. I would like to deconstruct it one day for people. But let's take a look at our next strip for today. By the way, technical, I think I can hear Judith from here instead of there, but we'll fix that. All right, now, this is from The Guardian once again. Hey, EFCC says we have so many underage 419ers in this state. Let's deal with them. No, let's leave them alone. We may still need their assistance. How? He asks. Remember, we won the last election through the help of underage voters? I will reserve my comments on this. Judith, I'll let you go first. Do you have any thoughts on this use of underage voting 419ers for elections? Is this what we saw, whether in Edo, Rivers, or wherever, I'm not saying, or in
We saw those viral videos in 2023 during the presidential elections. We did see them. And we also saw those allegations of people who were alien and not Nigerian who had crossed the border to also come to vote during the 2023 elections. We saw those.
Yeah, they might be resettlers, I don't know.
Yeah, and they might be resettlers, you know, but do they have NIN? You know what I mean? And also, do they have a voter's card? Because it's one thing to have NIN, everybody has NIN, you know. My nieces do have NIN, but do they have voter's card is the question. And so, and even if they do have a voter card, are you permitted to have a voter's card? Because you can go the queue. Because the thing that people forget about our voter's card is that some persons go to register not to vote, but to have some form of identification so they can be banked.
Yes, you are correct.
You know, so are you doing it as a form of identification, or are you doing it for the fact that you are supposed to vote? You are eligible to vote in Nigeria, and I think that that's where we should be focusing on, you know, how best to do this thing where, I mean, the beavers are cool, it's okay, you're meant to, it's for identification, but really and truly, when we go through the register and really filter the register, you know, because that conversation did happen in 2023 during the presidential elections, can we do this when we filter the register enough to flag those that are not just underage, but also are not eligible to vote?
That will be a very, very tough job. It'll have to, you have to go right back to the start.
And that's why we've talked about data. We've talked about our data oftentimes, you know, so NIN, drivers, we have all this data. Where is it?
It's a tiring subject. It's a tiring discussion to have when it comes to data. Over the years, every single kind of data that the government has gathered, whether it's this one or that one or so and so. trust me, I'm sure somewhere before the end of this year, before the end of this month, that subject is going to come up again, and we'll be sitting right where you are with very interesting guests to discuss this. I think this might be our last one, if I'm not mistaken. Let's take a look now and see. One more here for the strips. Let's see now. There you go. This is from The Guardian as well. Another depiction of what Nigeria is like. 2025 going downhill. Hardship coming right after you. It's accelerating. I'm excited, really excited, he says, about this crossover. Just like me, a half-full kind of guy. And who's right there behind you? Well, if you can zoom in, you will see exactly what the hat, the inscription on the hat. Me too, dear. I'm really excited about this crossover. Interesting. Now, this is from earlier in the year, only just a couple of days ago when we crossed over into 2025. And I don't know if to say it's a sad reality, but the president's speech, and let's talk about that for a second, the president's speech assures us that this is not going to be the instance. It's going to be, a level type of field, and maybe no boulders coming after us. Like I said from before, I'm a hope type of guy, and I'm hoping that things get better for 2025. And I think that we should all start to embrace that hope as well, and collectively also add our own endeavors to try and make the situation better, because we can't all just sit down and keep moaning. I'll tell you a short story I heard. If you had an accident at a place, how would you actually leave there? You have to get out of the scene, don't you? But if you keep thinking about that, then you're still trapped in the past. But you have to move your car over to the mechanics. So that's what we should do. Move your cars over to the mechanic. Let's leave that behind and start to rebuild together as a people while holding governance to account. My spiel there.
Well, you know my stance. It's still very rigid. And the last, I was doing the math for my transportation.
Okay.
Using the ride-hailing apps.
Oh, you still use those? You're a big girl.
You know.
You're trying. In this
exactly my point.
Do you know how much it is from here to my
point?
place of...
Because I compared last month. In fact, let's not even say, I compared November to March.
And?
March 2024 to November 2024. It was a 50% increment.
150.
That is wild.
I expected so.
That is wild.
So my calculations go thus. If I bought a full tank of fuel in my car, which would be somewhere around 42,000 naira, and the other option was to use a ride-hailing service, I would be paying half tank for one journey here to the office from my home. Half tank, that's about 21 or 22,000 naira all the way here. So imagine what people who don't, and I've said this to people, owning a vehicle in this economy is an asset. If you've got one that you're thinking of selling,
don't sell it. You know, and that's how bad it is, right? And the thing is, my transportation for a month have increased by 150%, and my earnings haven't increased in any way.
Or HR is listening to you. It's okay.
No, I'm sorry. What I'm trying to say is, you know, I'm still earning the same money I was earning. March and November is still the same income, right? Nothing's changed. That's what I'm trying to say. Nothing's changed. What I'm earning in March is what I'm earning in November, but somehow my spending has gone up only because, and it's not, I've not talked about energy in terms of, you know, electricity and fuel. I'm just talking, and that's not able to get us started with the family, you know, and this is just...
What band are you on? What band are you on?
I'm band A now.
You're band A. Okay. I don't want band A, please. I'm okay where I am.
I don't even know. We used to be on band C or something, right? And then the estate switched to band A.
Who sent you?
Who sent that message?
I'm sorry, this is the last one before we get into comic TV. But let me say thank you very much for joining us for the strips, and thank you very much, Judith, for giving very excellent support when it comes to the strips and your story. It's very interesting. Love it. Like I said, would like you guys to also be a part of this. We'll be giving you guys details of how you can also maybe weekly send in submissions as to what you think we should talk about when it comes to the strips. It's a good way of looking at life from a half-full point of view, if you ask me. Thank you. Stay tuned. We've got more inside of Breakfast Extra.
And you're welcome back. It's time for us to get into the front pages for today's Sunday dailies. And we've got all of the major newspapers for Nigeria and probably some parts of Africa. And we're going to get started with our first daily for today. And it's none other than The Nation newspaper. The Nation for a Sunday. How Delta, Rivers, Akwa Ibom, Lagos, Bayelsa ranked in 1.8 trillion naira in 2024. States pockets 5.3 trillion naira. FAC windfall allocation grew by 95.49% in 2 years. I can find that on the front page there. At the top there, Metro N seeks privatization of Port Harcourt Warri refineries, asks Tinubu to save 10,000 marketers' business with 100 billion naira. You can find that story on page 5. Right next to it, I thought she loved me, says groom poisoned by 14-year-old bride.
Huh? So there's so much to unpack in just that one. Wait, so... Okay, so I'm sorry.
You know what?
I have to pull you back here.
We have to have...
So I don't know what to focus on, the poisoning or the age of the bride. And where was this? It must have been in the north.
I'm glad that they had to put the age of the bride because,
It doesn't seem to justify it, however, but then again, it gives you an idea into the mindset of such a person who would
marry a 14-year-old bride and then surprise that she poisoned you.
Exactly. Exactly. So that's an entire telenovela we've just seen now. Interestingly, in the space of the span of just a couple of seconds.
God!
Wow.
Let's look at the bottom there. Move on now to our next one here. Someone says one of the headlines here: 2025 outlook. That story should be on page 12. At the bottom there, why subsidy removal was necessary, and that's by Tinubu. Hails Mba, a symbol of Southeast states, says, I don't care about your party, you are my friend. I'm sure he was talking to Alex Oti there. That word is from Tinubu. Well, you're also my friend, Mr. President.
It's like the relationship between I and Matthew.
Men are just...
Okay, moving on. The Punch newspaper for a Sunday. Tax reforms. Tinubu sends emissaries to leaders as northern governors remain adamant. No going back on demand, says northern governors. I'll live with your noise. President tells angry politicians. He's on this, trail of, or this track of, I don't care what you think, who you are. I'm just going to do my job and love you while I'm at it, even if you're an adversary.
You know what that means?
What?
I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
It means that you get backing.
Oh.
You know what I mean? Like, I could only say it in local parlance so for you to understand. You get backing.
Okay.
No shaking.
I can deconstruct that a million ways,
yeah,
but
exactly.
I think I get the core of what you mean. At the top for Sunday Punch, PDP, NEC, INEC chair, retirement, Trump presidency, and other major 2025 events looking forward. Nigerians doubt fresh predictions over 2024. Failed prophecies. How many failed prophecies do you remember from 2024, Judith? We've got a dais of some of the major religious leaders there. I think one or two might be missing, but interesting 2024 prophecies that we heard that didn't come true. To the side here, opposition faults FG's 14.3 billion naira budget for 20 MDA's computers. And Warri Refinery, marketers eye loading of petrol from February. I'll come back to that in a bit. Tinubu governors mourn as Ondo SSG dies 16 days after crash, and how desperate men inject drugs for killer body frame. Really? We still do this? I saw older inmates sodomize young prisoners, says pardoned file theft convict. And we spoke to Shegun here yesterday on the show, just in case you missed it. It's trending on our YouTube page. You want to go and search it out. He told his entire story and gave some very interesting revelations to his stay in prison. And the one thing that really almost drew me to tears was when you asked him, Judith, you asked him if what else he wanted, or if he wanted something more, perhaps compensation. And his response was, no.
I'm happy where it's
I'm
at.
happy that I'm free, and that's enough.
I'm not looking back.
Yeah, I'm not looking back.
I'm not going anywhere.
To come back to the Warri Refinery and a conversation we had yesterday as well regarding the status of things in the society around the refinery, our guest actually made a very interesting point when he talked about the security, crime, and all of that that could ensue since after the refinery is coming back online. It was a point that I had never seen before or looked at before, but if you have such a money-making venture inside of a state, you'd expect that the people who live ancillary to it would be able to thrive, and that was what he was trying to point out, that if you cannot infuse them into the system, then you must make provisions for them to be able to thrive around it. I think that was more your point.
That's
that was more your
to
point
say.
yesterday.
Because, look, I will say this, a university degree is a dime a dozen. Everybody, almost every, Nigerians are by far the most educated people. Even if we have issues with our education system, people actually go to schools to get degrees. I mean, go to the NYC camp. I mean, there are thousands of there every year that go through the process. So they do have degrees. But if you don't meet the criteria of their hiring mechanism, then what happens? Because whether you like it or not, even though it is situated in Warri, it is still very much.
They're not going to employ.
It's a national asset.
People who don't know how to.
You don't know how to do the job.
So,
if you don't meet that criteria, then what happens? And so that's why the informal sector is very important. That's why the ecosystem there is very important. Those who are providing logistics, transportation, healthcare, food, entertainment, tourism. So that's what I was trying to make.
Either way, it's a good thing for Warri, which, by the way, I'm going to be in by later this evening. I'm looking forward to being in Warri.
Oh, yeah, his motorbike. If you're wondering how it's getting there, it's going by road. Yeah, I will switch from Sunday Punch to Sunday Independent. And this time, youths barricade highway over kidnappings in Kogi State. Crackdown on Odo Ape attackers. Ododo charges security operatives. That story there is on page 6. Future Africa Leaders Foundation empowered young Africans with $1.5 million in 12 years. That story there, you can find that story on page 8. At the bottom there, anxiety persists over cost of living in 2025. Tell me about it. Prophecies of hardship drown Tinubu's New Year's promises. Activists seek reversal of neoliberal economic policies, say current piloted measures won't go far. Canvass aggressive action in other productive sectors. You can find that story on page 2. The faction rumor, PDP writes Governor Oboriwori seeks clarification. That story there is on page 5. You need to clarify because there's a hostile takeover happening. And if I say A, you say P, another man says C. Omona, you Sabi.
Where did you grow up?
I know.
Oh, wow.
At the bottom there.
All right, quickly, do something else.
At the bottom, Warri Refinery elicits little excitement over limited capacity. Privatize the refineries, invest in CNG. Oil marketers advise federal government. You can find that story on page 2. Maintain status quo on tax reform bills. Northern elders tell FG. Accuse government of disdaining voices of dissent. Insist proposed reforms will exacerbate economic realities. You can find that story on page 3. And at the bottom there, our recent campaign for introduction of Sharia law in Southwest started. That story is on page 4. You can find all of these interesting stories on the Sunday Independent.
Thank you very much, African China. Moving on now to the Vanguard newspaper for a Sunday morning. How 2025 will shape 2027. Opposition parties struggle for realignment. Eyes on Obi Atiku Kwankwaso as personal ambitions overshadow LP, PDP, and NPP merger talks. Yes, that's gone with 2024, it seems. 2025 is not 2013. APC speaks on potential candidate Tinubu. Dun, dun, dun. There's plenty on the Vanguard front page here. Supreme Court's judgments. Why Tinubu needs to order alternative dispute resolution on Best Western Hotel on page 25. On page 34, you'd find Igbo leaders beg Tinubu to dismantle roadblocks, checkpoints. Now, Tinubu will be visiting Enugu, I think, sometime this week.
Hallelujah.
And there's plenty of hopes for him to also perhaps pronounce the release of Nnamdi Kanu. There's so many. Oh, I think he's in Enugu at the moment.
Oh, yes, he is.
Yeah.
So
There's plenty of hope that he would be making that announcement. What they're hoping. I can't substantiate that, why it would be, but...
I'm very, Anambra is a very dicey conversation, right? First of all,
Very
it's a stronghold for
volatile.
APGA, right? And there's that, and then the ruling party there is APGA, the national ruling party is APC, right? So there's not really much of a stronghold. But also, the sit-at-home order is another, it's a stronghold for IPOB as well. So it's very interesting to see how he's going to navigate the conversations in that state, like you rightfully said.
True.
We'll
wait to see. We'll be reporting that every single step of the way. Still in the vanguard for a Sunday, Alabarago, where nothing goes to waste. Do you know the meaning of Alabarago?
No, I don't.
Alaba, I don't, but rago is goat or ram. So it's a market for there's a couple of them across the...
So when you get the offals?
Yeah,
the
offals.
yeah.
So nothing going to waste refers to everything that comes off of the slaughtered animals, the fur, the skin, the hooves, which very interestingly, hooves are used to make glue. I never knew. Very good glue, by the way. Very interesting.
It must really stink there, though.
The last one for the vanguard here is NAFDAC alerts on fake cancer drug in circulation. Take note on page 7, you might want to read that. And it's right next to a picture of Shafi Bello where it says a star to watch for 2025. I doubt that it's Shafi Bello. I think she's had a very fantastic run and she's still at the top. But I think 2025 will be a year of the skit makers once again. They're not done yet.
Yeah, I don't think
the
they are.
collaborations are the new thing going on now, where the skit makers are collaborating with themselves here in Nigeria and even exporting that collaboration outside of Nigeria.
Yeah, that's good. That's a good one. That's a good prediction for 2025.
So, yeah, I'm looking forward to. Yeah, what do you call it now? I'm not saying that she's not great. I'm saying she's fantastic.
She's a legend. She's a living legend. I mean,
well, not yet. Well, legend would also mean that you have to be dead, but
I said living. I said living.
Living legend.
From Sunday Vanguard to Sunday Telegraph, right? Shall we? We're bringing up the Telegraph there. At the top there, true leaders achieve success through humility, foresight, says Shatima. That story is on page 5. 2025 budget over ambitious, unrealistic. LCCI, NSE, others. That story there is on page 9. Ambassadorial list, lobbying for juicy postings, delaying exercise. Diplomats, politicians want to displace career envoys. Ambassador Keshi, only foreign minister can speak on it, says presidency. You can find all this on page 3. Tinubu to Mba, I don't care about your party. You are doing very well. Tell me about it. And right next to it, federal government autonomy. Local government autonomy, I beg your pardon. Governors afraid of losing political relevance. Doge president says direct FAC allocation to councils from January will spur development. That story is on page 2, 14, and 12 as well. Tinubu and GF, others condole with Ayedatiwa over SSG's death. That story is on page 3 and 4. Port concession didn't yield desired results. Nwike. That story is on page 8. And right next to it, the very last headline for the Sunday Telegraph, 9 dead in Jigawa communal clash. You can find that story on pages 4 and 5.
Welcome to the Sunday Times, because this is a very interesting one. The big headline here for the Sunday Times has this very controversial, in rubrics here, Chatterhouse's a 30 million naira school fees sparks outrage. Debate among Nigerians. How much would you pay for your offsprings? Offspring is such a, what's it called word to use? For your kids' education. Okay. 30 million naira. I don't know if this is per year or if this is a term, but that's a lot of money. That would build me a house even in Lekki. And I'm wondering who pays that sum.
30 million naira would be
Yeah, Bello. Sorry.
What?
Well, hey, we've got the receipts to prove it, but not for Chatterhouse in any case. If you were following the story through 2025, one of the biggest stories, where is Waldo, Yahaya Bello?
And they're still looking for him, I'll tell you that.
Well, we found him eventually. He
yeah.
sauntered into court like nothing did happen.
Yeah.
Where did I grow up?
That's Rebecca man.
Why Yahaya reversed, or rather Yaradua reversed refinery sale to Dangote, Falana tells, on the a copy of the Sunday Times. And Tinubu makes first Southeast state visit in Enugu. We talked about that earlier. Commissioned schools and other projects. What else? Why we spent 3.6 billion on agriculture at Plateau State, says the Plateau State governor. And at the very bottom, Naira is now 1,660 Naira per dollar in parallel market. It's been there for a while. It's just hovering around that 1,600 Naira.
Good times, good times.
That's it for the Sunday Times.
Good times. That should be all of our papers for today, isn't it?
Well, yes, I guess it is, unless we're surprised with another one. Yes, indeed.
That's all of it.
So, that's it for the papers. Do stay tuned because we're going to be visiting Rivers State and talking about the recent presented budget by the governor that sparked controversy. Let's talk about that when we return. So welcome to our first big story for today, where we now turn our attention to Rivers State. So, Governor Siminalayi Fubara's presentation of the 2025 budget has sparked a political firestorm, with the APC describing it as illegal. The controversy stems from claims that the governor presented the budget to only 3 lawmakers, bypassing the standard legislative process and raising serious questions about the legitimacy of the appropriation bill. Now, critics argue that this alleged violation of due process undermines the principles of accountability and transparency in governance. However, the state government remains and maintains that the budget presentation was conducted without, or rather within, the bounds of the law. So, what really transpired and what are the political and legal ramifications for Rivers State?
And so joining us this morning to unpack these issues is Mr. Chibike Ikenga. He's the Publicity Secretary for APC Rivers State. Now, let me start by saying, before we get into our conversation, Mr. Ikenga, I want to say thank you so much for joining us and a very happy New Year to you.
Okay, we'll fix the sound, don't worry.
We'll try to fix your sound there, but I must also note here that we extended an invitation to the Victor Okojombo-led House as well, and unfortunately we didn't get any response from them, as none of them agreed for this interview, and they turned that invitation down. They still do have a right of reply throughout the course of this conversation, and the invitation for an interview is still very much open for the members of the House. In the meantime, we do have something we'd like to play for you. Let's just take a look at this package, or rather this report, and then we'll come back and start the conversation with Mr. Ikenga. Take a look.
It is unfortunate, it is unimaginable, it is unthinkable that a governor had risen through the ranks. If for nothing else, he was a civil servant, full-blown civil servant, in the Ministry of Finance. It means, of course, that over the years, he's not a toddler in the business of budget and how it is presented. 27 of the assembly members are on this side. 3 members of assembly are on this side. And between you and I, is it not an anathema that a budget of a state as prominent and as all-important as Rivers State will be presented to an illegal setting? Court of Appeal, in their various judgments, from the days of Omotosho, way back in January 2024, it is clear in the judgment of Omotosho that a budget has to be presented to a legislative arm under the leadership of Right Honorable Martins Chike Amegu. I did all I could today as we speak on this matter. Each time I see the assembly members and see them still fronting their PDP membership, I just tell myself that for once you have lost something. I'm a goal-getter, but in that case, I lost it. I challenge any person from any ward, from any LGA, because I had to set my searchlight, and I was wishing that any one of them would go and register for the party. None registered.
And now we return to our guest, Mr. Ikenga, who's on standby and has been since we started this conversation here. Mr. Ikenga, good morning once again, and thank you for joining us. Let's see if we can get your audio now.
Yeah, good morning. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome, Mr. Ikenga. Mr. Genga, first off, let's get where you stand on this matter of the appropriation bill being illegal or not, or who it was presented to and to how many members of the House.
Okay, thank you for the question. Firstly, you'd recall that I speak for the Rivers State All Progressives Congress, and therefore I shall continue to do so. And even now, I just listened to the clip from the chairman of the party, Chief Tony Okocha, and clearly it is illegality upon illegality from Rivers State government in most of their actions, if not all, excuse me. More so, this government has a reputation of disobedience to court orders, a reputation for working against the laid down principles of the Constitution of the Federal Republic of Nigeria, which in the first place created the office of the government, whether it is the executive, the legislature, and the judiciary in Rivers State. So it is a known fact. We have canvassed it elaborately on all platforms to the fact that government of Rivers State under Governor Sim Fubara continuing to tread on the path of illegality will create tension, will drive away development, and will continue to deepen disagreements and will not encourage integration in our state.
And there are claims that the governor presented the budget to just 3 lawmakers. Is this true?
They are not claims. They are facts that he presented to an association of friends. You recall that Justice Omotosho, about January, and the Court of Appeal had at different times mandated the Rivers State government under Governor Sim Fubara to make representation of the budget of 2024 to the House of Assembly only led by Right Honorable Martins Assembly and the only recognized House of Assembly in Rivers State. But the government had continued to disobey such positions from the high courts to the appellate courts. And we believe that they will also disobey Supreme Court decisions.
So, but the governor has claimed that this was done within the law. I mean, he can stake his bottom dollar on the fact that this was within the law. What's your thoughts regarding his claim that it was legal?
Well, the governor is he's the one making the decisions to disobey the courts and court decisions. So what do you expect him to say? He will rationalize why what he's doing is right. But the governor who heads the executive is not the head of the legislature. He's not also the head of the judiciary. I didn't know when there is a conflict between two arms of government, particularly the legislature and the executive, it is the responsibility of the judiciary to settle it by interpreting what exactly the letters and spirit of the Constitution is. And in this case, the judiciary has intervened because there's a disagreement between the legislature and the executive. And the judiciary, having done their job by interpreting what the position is, the executive under Governor Sim Fubara in Rivers State has refused to obey them and has continued to encourage disobedience to such orders and judgments and rulings from Court of Law.
And now I have to ask you what the APC plan will be, to challenge this illegality in quotation. What is the APC's plan?
APC as a law-abiding party nationally, and in this case in Rivers State, have continued to follow due processes by challenging illegalities of the government in courts of law. That's the only window that we do have. We cannot take laws into our hands. We cannot resort to self-help. So we will continue to press on from the judicial angle to ensure that the proper things are done. Whether decisions are taken against us, the APC, or our interests, or what we believe in, or not, we shall continue to obey the law and follow it. So we have said, and we believe it is illegal to present a budget. But take note that democracy is about participation. and representation. And in the House of Assembly is where you have both participation and people's representation. And it will be a misnomer for the governor and the government of Rivers State to deny the larger spectrum of Rivers citizens the opportunity to be represented. And in this case, note that in this case, budget presentation, budget implementation is at the core of governance. And if this larger number of citizens of Rivers State are excluded from the budget process, then you can quickly say the end. The end is that the people have been cut off and it has become a rule by just a few. And that's not what democracy contemplated in the first place.
Mr. Ikenga, let's focus on that. Let's take away the legal ramifications of this. Let's look at the political implications. Let's look at the governance implications here. Because when we have these discussions, most times we always talk about the players in legislature, but we never seem to talk about the people who are supposed to be governed and how this matters to them. So what are the implications? What are we looking at here for the regular person walking on the streets of Rivers State if this budget is not passed and this controversy going back and forth about it?
Yeah, like I did mention a short while ago, the people have been excluded from participation. People have been excluded from representation. They have also been excluded from completely being part of the governance in Rivers State by this act. And you know, the implication is that it becomes what we can describe as fascistic. It becomes what we can describe as impunity taken too far, wherein the essence of democracy, essence of governance is the people. And then when the people who are the sole aim of instituting government, protection of lives and property, protection of the interests of the people, the masses of the people, what Jeremy Bentham did say as Subon Bonum, wherein the essence of policy making, the essence of implementation, even adjudication should be aimed at encouraging or ensuring that the largest number of people are made happy. So you can see that the largest number of people here in Rivers State are excluded. And that is counterproductive to the principles and theories of utilitarianism as propounded by Jeremy Bentham and J.S. Mill and others.
With all of this playing out, right, with the House, Okojombo-led faction, the Amawale-led faction, APC, Fubara, and the minister, Wike, what happens to the legislative process and in the state, in just the House in and of itself? Because it's still very much an integral part of the state when it comes to the structure of governance for Rivers State.
Yeah, I think that there is politicization, a complete politicization of governance in Rivers State, where an arm of government will, because it has the resources domiciled with it, will twist other arms to ensure that they do not operate. Remember that Montesquieu and others did provide for separation of powers as a proper way to checkmating executive rascality, and judicial and as well as legislative misbehaviors, quote and unquote. So if we obey the instructions of the constitutions, or rather spirit and letters of the Constitution of Nigeria, you will agree that governance will be seamless. But like I said, people have imputed personal interests in their daily implementation or policy framework of the state. And that, of course, is antithetical to the interests and development of the people and the state.
It just begs to wonder, how then, work can be done, or even the very basics, just like legislative passing bills and just being able to do the very basics of democracy when this continues to happen. And what is on the for APC for 2025? And when I say APC, I mean Rivers State APC party for the state. What is for the people of Rivers State?
Okay, as an opposition party here in Rivers State, our interest is to continue to ensure that the people are the basis upon which we operate. When government faction policies and programs will ensure that the beneficiaries, which are the people, must benefit maximally from it. And then when we see such policy frameworks and it does not align with encouraging and impacting positively on the socioeconomic status of the people in the state, we criticize them. And then when policies also are framed in such a way that it does not take into consideration the needs of the people within the state, we also go against, and we shall continue to assiduously this year, 2025, to pursue such goals. So ensuring that government is accountable, government must ensure that earnings and receipts match, and that they are in line and in tandem with the expectations of Rivers people in terms of delivery on the projects, delivery on what the expectations of the people of Rivers. Otherwise, then there will be no essence of government in Rivers. But we shall continue as APC to ensure that Rivers people benefit maximally from the revenues accrued to the state, from the policies and programs of the government of the day, to ensuring that the people reap bountifully from their God-given resources.
Mr. Ikenga, still on the Rivers people that you just spoke about, what do you think their outlook is when it comes to looking at the party in governance and the opposition? What will their decision be come 2027? Do you think that this has a notch on their thinking or how they perceive the ruling party?
Well, the ruling party is in tatters, and a lot of them have disagreed within their ranks, and the only viable alternative is the APC in Rivers State. And I can assure you that in 2027, beginning from this 2025, APC will win over the state. You also know that the people have become frustrated because of the decisions of the government of the day. They have gone into projects. The question we ask always is that, are these projects needed at this time? Or the projects are to fund the profligacy of the government, or to try to do showmanship for the government? We look at projects that impact directly on the people of Rivers State and will encourage the government to go on that trajectory. And the government has refused to do so. That's why we are against them. And the people are also against them.
Mr. King, I want to say thank you for just taking out the time this morning to join us and have this conversation. Once again, to the Victor Kojombo-led House, they still do have a right of reply to any of the member of the House to come and, reply to any of the submission that Mr. Chibike Ikenga has said on here. Mr. Chibike, once again, many thanks. He's the Publicity Secretary for APC, giving us a bit of update as APC have said that the appropriation bill that has been passed into law by the House, the Kojombo-led House of Assembly for Rivers State, is illegal. Once again, thank you.
Welcome. Thank you for having me too.
We're going to a short break at this point. When we return, we get into a very significant report about femicide in Nigeria for 2024 after the break.
And you're welcome. Now, our next conversation shines a much-needed spotlight on a deeply troubling issue: femicide in Nigeria. In 2024 alone, at least 133 women and girls were tragically killed in gender-related violence, as revealed by the 2024 DOHS Cares Foundation Femicide Report. Now, these are not just numbers, these are actual lives lost, futures stolen, and families left in devastation. From the heartbreaking case of the 3-year-old girl in Bauchi State to the monthly toll of women across the country, the data underscores a growing crisis that demands urgent attention.
And so joining us this morning to discuss this issue and explore solutions is Bose Ironsi. She's the Executive Director of Ireti Center and Foundation of the Women's Rights and Health Project. Ms. Bose, Ms. Ironsi, you're welcome to the program.
Thank you so much.
Also joining us later on will be Mrs. Ololade Ajayi. She'll join us in the course of this conversation. But the number from the 2024 femicide reports, they're horrifying. Harrowing. What do you think is fueling the rise in violence against women and girls in Nigeria?
So first, let me say thank you for having me here.
Thank you.
But I want to say that number is even underreported.
Wow.
Seriously underreported.
Why? Because it's...
Because, if you look at the kind of silence around issues that concerns family, people see it as a family issue. Of course, most of these femicide issues occur within the family environment, and it's usually caused by intimate partners that within the family and all that. So it's like a norm that is unacceptable. For example, honor killing. If a child, you know, there's a belief system that a child should be married at the age of 13 or 15, and she's saying, no, that can't happen. And the mother believes, and the father believes, and the community believes, they're not going to report that cases. However, it is so sad is that we are just looking at those that are reported, but there are a lot that are happening that is not even tracked to being as a result of femicide. For example, organ harvesting. You know, girls' organs are being harvested, and after 2 or 3 months or so, they died as a result of complications. Nobody is talking about that. You know, then you look at kidnapping and organ harvesting, you know, cut off the breast, cut off all the, you know, private parts, all in the name of getting money. And nobody is talking about that. We are looking at the person who died as a result of maybe a fight and all that. But generally, femicide is high in Nigeria.
Well, ma'am, you started by saying that it's often a case between intimate partners. Now, partners being the word here to underline. However, then you now talked about honor killings. And honor killings is, if I'm correct, often has this either religious or cultural nuance to it that causes people to believe a certain belief system that says you have to uphold a tradition.
Right.
This is happening inside of Nigeria, you're confirming. I mean, I know that in parts of the world like
and Bangladesh and all that,
exactly, but in Nigeria?
Yes, it does happen.
So culture has a very big role to play in this. So how can that be addressed when culture and tradition and religion, which is a big form of a part of our society, is actually what's pushing this kind of act?
I think it's also because we are not looking at femicide as a huge crime. Even though the woman died, it's like an accepted norms because it's coming from that perspective that, I mean, why would you even go against that law, all right? But there are laws that have, for example, the Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law. In short, even internationally, the UNHCR, Article 3 says right to life. So those laws are there, but you see, when it comes, like I've mentioned, when it comes to issues of an accepted norm, let's say in a culture where there's a lady, I think it's Fatima or somebody, who actually was killed as a result of her refusing to get married because the parents felt it was her right time to marry.
Wow.
So some of them, their legs are cut off and they die. You know, they are thrown away because they feel that they are going against, you know, the norms and belief system of that particular culture. So it does happen, and it's happening. There was a case in Ebonyi State where a lady came to say, I have an inheritance right to my father's property, and she was murdered. How dare you come to say that you want to? Are you a man to have come to say you want to claim? You want to be part of your daddy's
Are people getting
inheritance.
punished?
Punished. There's a high level of impunity because it is again seen as, let's say, it's a family issue. You know, so, and then it is not being given the right place because we just look at it as a homicide. I mean, it's two fighting or something that just happened. But if you give it the right perspective, this is an intentional act to kill a woman or a girl child. And it should be dealt with in that. There is no law that is specific about that if a man kills a woman or a family member kills a girl child, whatever reason it is, that person needs to be, you know, to be dealt with. It's not there. It's not going to be a homicide, and probably after so much discussions and all that. Of course, we know what is the legal framework in Nigeria, how it takes God knows when to get justice.
I'm really glad we're talking about legal framework because, like you said earlier, many of these cases are underreported or they lack, you know, follow-up investigation, you know, thorough investigation into the matters. And so one has to talk about, the systemic gaps in our law enforcement and most importantly, our judicial system. In a country like ours that is heavily entrenched in our religious, practices and ways and even our cultural beliefs and systems, sometimes that could also pose a challenge for the law enforcement agencies to step in and really thoroughly investigate the matters, doesn't it?
Yeah, let us not even look at femicide as somebody died. Let's look at simple as gender-based violence, sexual violence. You see a father sexually abusing a daughter of 7 years. And people are saying, but what did he do? It's just the father now, but do you want to send the father to jail? What happens? And then you'll be amazed, the culture, the society, where she is telling the woman, so you want to watch your husband going to jail. So there are very strong, cultural belief system that also infuse and affects the way the legal system plays out. For example, if I had a case recently where a girl was sexually being abused by a stepfather and a stepbrother. And the family came up to say, so you want to send your father and your brother to jail. But nobody is ever talking about the survivor herself. So I think that there is a lot we can do in terms of, navigating this whole process and getting justice. One is to create more awareness. And then the law should actually bite and be outright there, not taking a long time. Because sometimes when you are asking people to come back after about 6 years, 5 years to get justice, they've forgotten that such a thing has happened to them.
Right.
Then I think we need education. And then we should have a survivor-centered approach in terms of responding to somebody. I ask myself, if such a case happened to somebody, what happens to her mental state? Okay? I'm just talking about sexual violence and all that. What happens to that person as she's going? So that formed my Ireti Resource Center to provide psychosocial support for people who are undergoing that long term of justice, making sure that they still see themselves as human beings, because we still believe that they have a role to play in the development of the society. And then the government should prioritize that. They should put in resources.
I'm really glad we're having this conversation, because you said something when you were giving the analogy or the scenario, of stepfathers and stepbrothers and fathers, raping people with familiar ties and just having sexual relationship with their ward or child or other relative. But most importantly is the older women in that instance who protect the men, and the families also step in and they shield the men. And we see this often even in, we see this very often even in social media as well. There's a particular case that's now trending where I saw the video and the person was speaking Yoruba, and unfortunately my Yoruba is very poor. But the comments under was a woman catches her husband, who she's just barely married to in less than 6 months, raping or molesting, let's keep it that, allegedly molesting underage girls under her roof. She calls the mother to explain to the mother that this is what my husband's been doing. She's telling the husband this relationship is going to come to an end. Now, instead of the mother to be outraged, she is begging the lady and saying, please forgive him. And so I would like for us to talk about that, that mindset of the older generation of women, and sometimes it's even younger generation of women, that mindset that we see where women also protect the perpetrators of this crime as well. We're going to get into that, and that will set the tone for our next conversation after the break, because I understand that we have Udoka on standby to bring us the news. Udoka, how are you doing?
Very well. Good morning, Philip. Good morning, Marcin.
That's Mr. Udoka Njoku to you there, bringing us some sports news. What do you have for us? What's the latest?
Well, a lot's happening across the world of sports, especially today, Super Sunday. We expect the clash between Liverpool and Manchester United. But of course, let's start off with the South Africa PSL Giants, Mamelodi Sundowns. They suffered a 1-0 defeat to Morocco Botola Pro Giants, Raja Casablanca, in a heated CAF Champions League Group C clash on Saturday. The South African side had 2 players sent off, with midfielder Batusi Albas receiving a straight red card for a studs-up challenge on Younes Najari late in the first half. Now, fullback Kuliso Mudau followed suit, dismissed in the second half for striking forward Nofel Zehuni in the face. Raja Casablanca secured victory through Benasia Benema's close-range strike in first-half stoppage time, a goal Sundowns protested for offside. The win marked Raja Casablanca's first in the group stage, while it ended Sundowns' unbeaten run. Sundowns last won the CAF Champions League in 2016, while Raja Casablanca are three-time former champions. Away from that one now, let's talk about Super Eagles forward Victor Osimhen, who kicked off the new year in style, playing an important role in Galatasaray's 2-1 triumph over Göztepe. Now, following a week-long break, Galatasaray returned to action where Victor Osimhen opened the scoring from the penalty spot, and that happened in the 10th minute, bringing his season tally of goals to an impressive 13 goals. With 47 points, Galatasaray sits atop the Super League, firmly establishing themselves as title favorites. Now, Osimhen's consistent performances continue to highlight his crucial role in the team's success, further solidifying his reputation as one of the league's standout players. In the English Premier League, it was João Pedro's second-half penalty that dealt Arsenal a huge blow, talking about their title ambitions, as they were held to a 1-1 draw at the Amex by Brighton. Arsenal struck first in the 16th minute when 17-year-old player Ethan Nwaneri, making just his second Premier League appearance, scored a well-crafted goal. Linking up with Mikel Merino and Declan Rice, Nwaneri's low shot slipped past goalkeeper Bart Verbruggen into the far corner. The Gunners dominated the game much of the second half and first half as well, but failed to capitalize on their chances. Now, Brighton equalized just after the hour mark when Pedro converted a penalty following a bizarre incident. It was Pedro who flicked the ball up, and William Saliba's attempted header made contact with Pedro's head, leading to the spot kick, which Mikel Arteta, Arsenal manager, did criticize. The draw leaves Arsenal 5 points behind leaders Liverpool, having played 2 more games. Heading over to the world of tennis, Naomi Osaka's bid for her first title in 4 years ended in heartbreak as she retired injured after winning the opening set of the Auckland Classic final against Denmark's Clara Thorsen. The 27-year-old former world #1, who claimed her last Grand Slam title at the Australian Open in 2021, made a comeback last year following a maternity break, but then she has struggled with consistency, finishing the season outside the top 50. Now, tears filled Osaka's eyes as she received on-court treatment before the second set, but ultimately had to withdraw, raising concerns about her fitness for the upcoming Australian Open. The Melbourne Major, where Osaka is a 2-time champion, runs from the 12th of January to the 26th, leaving fans hopeful for her recovery. And of course, that's a wrap on Sports Update and Breakfast Extra. I am Udoka and Joko. We're going to break. When we return, the show continues.
Welcome back after the sports, and we're still talking femicide in Nigeria after a very interesting report from last week. We have another guest with us in the studio, and that is none other than Ololade Ajayi, who is joining us to have this conversation. Thank you very much for joining us. But we're going to put a pin in it for now, as we expect that Judith will be bringing us the news, and then after we'll be continuing with that very interesting conversation.
And it's time for us to bring you the breakfast headlines. I am Judith TB. We get started as President Bola Tinubu has tasked the Nigerian Armed Forces to intensify efforts in reducing criminal activities to their barest minimum, particularly in flashpoint areas across the country. Chief of Defense Staff General Christopher Musa made this known during his ongoing working visit to frontline units under Operation Safe Haven in Plateau and Kaduna states. News Central Chizoba Anyonwe has the details. Still in northern Nigeria, respite has come the way of farmers in Borno State as Governor Professor Babangana Umara Zulum has announced the state government will subsidize the cost of petrol for farmers in communities affected by the Boko Haram insurgency. He made this announcement in Bama town during the launch of farm inputs distribution to over 5,000 farmers recovering from years of displacement caused by insurgent activities. News Central's Umaru Kirawa has the details.
Farmers, community and traditional leaders gathered at the Shehu of Bama's palace, a location once inaccessible due to Boko Haram's control over the town. The government distributed agricultural inputs such as solar-powered water pumps, improved seeds, and fertilizers, among other essential items.
One of the major challenges that is facing the farming communities here as regards irrigation farming is the increasing cost of fossil fuel. And therefore, I want to announce to the general public that government will procure petroleum products and sell to the farmers at a subsidized rate. A liter of petrol is being sold in Maiduguri at the cost of about 1,200 naira. But inshallah, henceforth, for irrigation farmers, for this farming season, a liter of petrol will be sold at the rate of 600 naira. Government is ready to invest an amount not less than 1 billion naira for this purpose.
The governor highlighted that a similar initiative carried out in 2024 in Damasak, Mobar local government area, significantly boosted food production and enhanced livelihoods.
Solar water pumps is 380 units of solar water pumps. 1,000 units of naphtha sprayers. 800 rolls of 2-inch flexible hose, 1,000 liters of pesticides. So far, so good, about 100 tube wells were drilled. But inshallah, another 250 tube wells will be drilled for irrigation purposes. Inshallah, more than 5,000 farmers will benefit from this scheme.
Stakeholders applauded the initiative and encouraged farmers to use the provided resources for their intended purpose. The resettlement of neighboring towns and villages, the government stressed, is essential to ensuring sustainable livelihoods for displaced persons. If this initiative succeeds, large-scale farming will become a reality, ensuring food security across the region. In Bama for News Central, Umaru Kirawa.
The craft of canoe making, steeped in the traditions of the riverine communities in Kogi State, has continued to thrive despite the threats of globalization that is affecting the world. Now, while the craft has continued to provide job opportunities for many in the area, it also serves as an indispensable industry for the transportation sector along the state's inland waterways. Our correspondent Joshua Marai visited one of such workshops and tells us more.
In Kogi State, north-central Nigeria, canoe making is not just a trade, it is a tradition passed down through generations. The artisans here select specific types of wood, like mahogany and ekpe, known for their resistance to water.
Who want the billboard? They know they like water, where the wood where they carry water. Mahogany, apa, madrin, ekpe.
While the craft was once done manually with hand saws, utilizing modern technology and equipment has made the process easier and more efficient.
The first designer on top table, we go put join them, design them. If you design them, you go come carry and put for here. You go use this engine. Before, now hand would they use, but another experience don't come. The time we will learn work. Now this saw would they use. But as experience they come, we can't they use those engines.
With more than 12 learners under his mentorship, the head of this workshop says that he ensures that they are supported with stipends at the end of the day.
If I close work now, you get the one where I will give them the small, now learn they learn, no. You get the one where I will give them 2,000, you get the one where I will give them 5,000, you get the one where I will give them 3,000. Maybe they know can they request money for food for people hand.
As you can see, this is an already finished boat capable of taking 15 persons at the same time. The style of this particular boat is peculiar to people here in Kogi State.
You get small one like that 2 person on. Would they do if not dry season, would they do 35. But rain season wood they hard. Would they do 40,000 or they carry 2 person. You get the one way they carry 5 people, they do on 60,000. It different 10 person the money there now, so they different. As you see motor being now, so they be.
Remains an essential part of the life of citizens. It is a tradition that not only supports communities, but also shapes the future of young artisans through skillful training and mentorship. In Lokoja for News Central, I am Joshua Imarai.
And you're welcome back. That's all we can take for Breakfast Extra. Breakfast headlines here on Breakfast Extra. It's back to switch gears to our discussion earlier about femicide. Our true guest today is Mrs. Bosse Irose. She is the founder of Ireti Homes. Hopefully I got that correctly. Ireti Resource Center. There we go. And we also have with us Mrs. Ololade Ajayi. She is the founder of DOHS Homes as well.
KS Foundation.
There we go. And she is also, they are the persons who put out the report on femicide, which is what we're going to be discussing today, gender-based violence and community and everything. Now, before the break, I was talking to you, Mrs. Rossi, about basically the mindset of women when it comes to reporting perpetrators of this crime and how they band together and protect perpetrators.
Family.
Why is that?
So it is because of what they learned. It's a socialization process over years. It's as a result of cultural belief system. So it's not just going to happen. Maybe our generation are going to be frowning at that. You ask yourself, why did female genital mutilation, stay for such a long time? Because people believe that it's, there is a reason for it. It's a status thing. Okay, it's something that they must hold on to. It's a belief system. It's a patriarchal society where they have to take that decision to hold on to those culture. So, but over years, you can see that there is, there's beginning to be a change in the narrative as people are beginning to create awareness, education about it, to say, no, these things are not normal. My mom is 95 years old, and when she's talking about female genital mutilation, she used to tell me about how it is, the father killed a cow, so that, and all that. And by the time I gave her a good analysis of the biological implications of female genital mutilation, she was like, so why did they do it? It means that was ignorance of the highest order. I said, yes, but a lot of people have died. A lot of people have, paid the supreme price because of that belief system. So you don't expect that. You see a woman who is undergoing, because femicide does not just happen. It's accumulation of domestic violence and all other things that happens, right? But you see, people will say, mothers of those days will say, my dear, remember, your father did it to me and here I am. But is that what we should be accepting at this time? But it's beginning to change, that's the fact. And I give kudos to women over years that have said something must not. Sometimes we overlook something. There are about women, I don't call it riots. It's, what's the best word that we all use? Resistance. We are saying, no, this tax something will not work. It's been there. People have been resisting gradually and all that. These days, mothers are not going to accept that. They're not going to say that, no, beat my daughter, and that will be accepted. No, it's going to change. But it's been there for a very long time. We know of the Umadas, the women who are the senior women in community level in some cultures. But that is beginning to change. And as a result of the efforts of media, creating awareness, education, changing the narrative, sending girls to school, and all that.
Mr. Jai, you were the ones who put out this report for DOHS, femicide in Nigeria. The numbers are staggering, and Mrs. Ironsi was saying that that to her, it's still that number still it's doing it justice to the number. It's not really capturing the entire situation that we face in Nigeria. And I want to ask you, in you compiling this report, what were some difficulties and challenges for your team? And do you also align with her assertion of the report?
Yes, I do. She's entirely correct. The numbers that we have put out, we have put out 133 for this year, but it's barely scraping them. The figures are probably triple of that. Because like she said, femicide is so normalized in Nigeria, and we do not take it as a public health crisis. We take it as a private affairs, especially when it is between intimate partners. And it's barely reported. The cases that we have, our database, the cases on our dashboard are cases that we can verify. We have the victims of, the details of the victims and the perpetrator, the relationship between the victim perpetrator, the causes. There are some that, we've heard about and they were not reported as such, but, further investigation revealed that there was actually a gender-related motive at that. So the figures are much more higher. Some cases that we have also not put out are cases whereby there's no detail at all, especially about the victim. We just said that there's a dead body somewhere and there's nothing to prove that.
And these happen often, these cases of dead bodies just popping up in places.
Oh, there are a lot.
People don't really...
Especially missing women and girls.
Yeah.
They usually end up being cases of femicide.
So these are the stories that we hear, but what about stories of perhaps cases that reached a good conclusion where somebody was punished? I think we also need to hear that story so people can take sample and note that, okay, if this is happening, or even see it from when it's just a budding instance and say this is where this might go. So are there any instances you can tell us?
For us at DOHS, we believe that no victim of femicide in Nigeria has gotten justice as far as we are concerned. I mean, there have been cases whereby women who were murdered, has gotten to the courts. But we believe that if there's no specific legislation on femicide, there's no justice. If you're not thinking about, if you're not putting into perspective the gender-related motive for that crime. I mean, on Christmas Eve, a woman was killed because of a tuber of yam. Just this last Christmas, on the 24th of December, 7 days ago or so. Yes, in Ebonyi State. She was killed. Her husband said he wanted her to make
roasted yam.
She wanted
the same story you were telling me.
Yes, the husband wanted it cooked yam.
Yes,
She said
she wanted it roasted
yam.
And he dragged her into the room and beat her till she died. And so if the root of this is not addressed, and misogyny is at the root of femicide, that's a bias or discrimination against women. If it's not addressed, there's no justice.
Right.
And the question you asked me earlier, what about the challenges that we face? Tracking these cases, we face a lot of challenges, and also for us, as first responder to GBVs, sometimes we're trying to respond to a domestic violence case. And before you know it, they've turned to cases of femicide. We have cases like that. And because of the fact that there's no enough support system for women and girls who are in sexual violence or domestic violence situation, there's no, support in terms of individuals, families, and also the government as well. And also, I like the fact that you talk about punishment for perpetrators. I mean, we have been following up cases that were like, these are cases of femicide. Look at Bamishe's case, the popular Bamishe that died in 2022 in the BRT bus that was found with her body mutilated and all that. And we've been going to court since 2022. It was still adjourned again in December. And that was why we at the DOHS Case Foundation, drafted a bill on femicide and submitted it to both the Lagos State House of Assembly and also the National Assembly. Like, this is an epidemic. You have to look into it.
What's the response from the authorities?
Oh, okay. The Lagos State House of Assembly said there's already a law on domestic violence and murder, and so it covers the crime of femicide. And we said no. It doesn't cover, these laws on murder and domestic violence does not cover the crime of femicide because it doesn't take into cognizance, the root of this. It doesn't take into cognizance the fact that this is expressly male violence against women. This is expressly gender-motivated violence against these women. This is actually...
And so it now begs to ask a question about, how best can we now challenge this norms? How can we dismantle harmful practices and belief systems in our communities? Because as you rightfully said before the break, Nigeria is very entrenched in our societal systems and belief, as well as our religious belief as well. And all of the religion that we practice here in this part of the world is predominantly patriarchal.
Yes. We have to tackle so many things. One of it is toxic masculinity. You
have to say it upward. You have to say it more louder for those in the back.
Toxic masculinity.
There we go.
There is a community of incels, involuntary celibate, especially on social media, on Twitter. Once violence against women is reported, you see them come up and start saying, what about she? Maybe she was even...
Give excuses.
You know, and once, you know, perpetrators of this crime know that there's a steady support for them, they're going to get away.
Emboldens them.
Yes. Once there's no punishment, there's no express legislation on femicide, it's going to continue. There's no database, and that's why we said, you know what, we must challenge the fact that, you know, the database on femicide has to be out there. We have to challenge, what we're doing is data activism to say, you know what, this is an epidemic. Will the government continue to look at this and just say, everybody 16 days of activism, we are all marching outside, creating awareness and all that, but we want action. It's not about the talk. We want to see legislation. We want to see support system. We want to see more shelters. We want to see more support for survivors. We want to see adequate punishment, apt punishment for perpetrators of this abuse.
So if I may add to that, I think more is the fact that it should be a holistic approach. We must be intentional in addressing the issues of violence against women, because it starts generating. The person that was killed by intimate partner, it didn't just start one day. Probably start from abuse, start from physical slap and all that. I think for us to be able to change those belief systems, the community must be, you know, they must participate in the process of changing the narrative. It's about behavioral change. It's about seeing what is right and actually benefiting from what is right. So most times when these laws are enacted, really, the community people are not, they're not even aware. For example, for the past 17 years, what I have discovered, when you say Lagos State is saying there is a domestic violence law, in 2007, when I started, I decided that I'm going to take this domestic violence law and engage the community. And I'll be doing that, and I've printed almost 70,000 copies of that domestic law. What was I trying to do? Is to say that the law, the people need to know the law. Because the ignorance of the law is not an excuse. And if the people know the law, they will be able to demand for justice.
You also think that the trust deficit of our law enforcement agencies also contributes to the silence?
So I also 100%. Think that's another bug. In short, 5 years down the line, when we did our narrative and analysis and evaluation of the work we have done in Lagos State, we realized that, oh, there is a cross of people that we are leaving behind, and that is the law enforcement agent. So we decided that, okay, so let's engage the law enforcement agent. But what do you find? You train a set of people, before you know it, you see them at the, what's it called, at the traffic as traffic warding. And so you are actually building the capacity of people to know the law, to respond, and all that. And I keep saying, people like her, myself, the people that have worked, they work so hard to make sure that, for example, in Lagos State, I think about 26 family support units, domestic violence, family support units, and human rights desk officers. What were they trying to achieve? Is that you cannot be talking about domestic violence and you are also talking about armed robbery in the same place. There should be, you know, a way where if somebody is sexually abused, and it goes straight to the family support unit to say, this is the way, this is who I should report to. But what do you find? You still find that when you finish training this set of people, they are either, you know, transferred to another area.
They're misapplied.
Then, yes. Okay. So it is government being very intentional to say, for example, the Lagos State Domestic Violence Agency. That's a plus to Lagos State. Now, in that agency, you have the police desk there. That's about this. It can't serve the whole state.
Yeah, so we need more.
So when you are looking at the interiors, for example, the Badagry, the Ekpes, so who takes care?
Exactly.
Do you understand? So these are, I think it's about intentionality. It's about also funding. It's about making sure that the community people take ownership of the process of, you know,
you mentioned so many things. You mentioned that they need to know the law. The community needs to know the law first off. We need to train more authority, people in authority to also help to be custodians of this law and or bring people to book. But I have a question for you as a founder, and also you run an NGO as well. Now, in other crimes, you'd have situations where people who are undergoing these kinds of perhaps threats from family members or spouse can be removed from that environment. There are shelters, exactly. Do we have such here in Nigeria? Do your organizations offer such help to people who might be in distress like so?
Okay, so yes, there are shelters in Nigeria. There are shelters in Lagos State. Lagos State have their shelter. Then you have private shelters that people can also say, you know. For example, the first private shelter was put in place by Project Alert, and is still, you know, it's still ongoing. Other people have had shelter. But are they enough? No.
Not at all.
Not at all. It's like scratching the back of what.
That's an idea of how big this issue
so
is.
It's huge. Then another thing is the fact that, like I mentioned before, so you put people, everybody cannot go to the shelter really, because the family will say again, why are you taking our daughter to so place and all that. But I am also very concerned about the mental health of those people undergoing those processes.
Thank you, ma'am. I was going to go there and ask a question, and I want to redirect that to you, Mrs. Ajayi. Yeah. Stockholm syndrome is a thing. Have you experienced cases like that where people who are experiencing these threats still want to go back to that environment irrespective of whatever harm they're subjected to?
It happens, but oftentimes it's because the survivors do not have enough support. They do not. I mean, if you as a woman, you are assured that when you leave that environment, despite the fact that you know you're leaving that breadwinner who has been abusing you, you're sure that your children will get education. You're sure that you know there's shelter and all those provisions. Hardly do they go back, and they thrive. But when support is not enough, oftentimes most because those are their breadwinners, they go back to that and continue to endure the abuse. Those are very traumatic cases for us because it's more or less like the effort you're putting, there's no result. And for us, we do not have a shelter. We're working towards getting a shelter, but the shelter is expensive to maintain. The children have to go to school. They have to feed 3 times daily. We do not have a shelter. We do not even have, you know, the resources to rent a shelter. Recently, I was looking on the news, and when I saw, I think they said they seized some houses from Emefiele, 750. I'm like, give us a shelter. We need shelters.
I'm glad we're talking about, you know, shelters, but I also, this is Lagos State, right? Commercial hub of Nigeria. It makes me wonder about the northeastern states. It makes me wonder about the IDP camps. It makes me wonder about the border towns and also cases in the South. We are lucky and blessed to have the Gender-Based Violence Agency that is spearheaded by Titilayo, the one and only Vivo, who does a fantastic job. But what about these other states, 35 states plus the FCT? I mean, let's remove the FCT now. There's 35 states, and those states, especially Northeast, South, hotspots, especially the South and Southeast, hotspots for gender-based violence that oftentimes melt down to femicide, particularly gender-based violence towards children. When capturing your report, what was it? What did you find about those states?
Okay, thank you. That's a very interesting question. We're also very worried about the northern states.
I won't lie.
I am sure that the rate of femicide there, we can't even scratch it. Because most of these killings of women and girls are regarded as banditry, terrorism. Meanwhile, then you find out that a woman was kidnapped and then she refused to be raped and she was killed. That's a clear case of femicide, because femicide is the intentional killing of a woman or girl because of their gender. Now, it has, you know, a history of either sexual violence or domestic violence, and the fact that the person who killed this woman or girl regarded them as, you know, beneath their issues of gender equality and all that, inequality and all that. We have cases of honor killings in the north as well. We have cases, I mean, when I remember when Rebecca Chapman, the Olympian athlete, was burned to death, and you know, there was globally, you know, the news headline was...
It was shocking, everyone was out there,
and even international organizations were speaking about that, even international organizations in Nigeria. I was like, my goodness. Fatima died also in Kano, the same way. She was burned to death by a fiancé, not a fiancé, she dated for 7 days, and she said, will you marry, and he asked her to marry, and she said no, and he burnt her to death. The same week. And because femicide is so normalized there, you know, she didn't make the headline. And there's a lot of that going on. I mean, we heard of Falmata's case. I think this people reported it.
Isn't it Zamfara?
Human Angle, oh my God.
Okay, Human Angle, yeah.
Human Angle, yeah.
Yes, the Falmata that her uncle, killed her, that she disrespected her mother. And the mother said, no, she didn't respect her. And he was, he eventually killed her. And the mother was arrested. It's so normalized. And like you said, in the IDP camps, rape and all sorts of crime is so normalized. They are like suffering a double tragedy.
Of being displaced, of going through, the challenges of war and dispute and insurgency, and now being resettled in a camp, trying to rebuild their lives, and now still being targeted by men. Your advice to the governments, your advice to agencies, the MDAs, who are tasked with the responsibility of women affairs. I'm going to come to you.
Yeah, so before now, I want to say that I'm always being positive. I want a systemic change. And when you are looking at systemic change, I'm looking at laws that can help, even if you are going to get help, people will have the basis with which they want to help, okay? Before now, we didn't even have a sexual assault referral center, for example. It's just about 6 or 7 years or 10 years ago that we started having sexual assault. For example, Mirabel was the first sexual assault referral center in Nigeria and in West Africa.
Yes.
And then you ask yourself, where has there been this government and all that? So I'm also saying that now we have almost about 26 or 27 sexual assault referral centers. Then recently you hear, I think it's the governor of Cross Rivers or Akwa Ibom State, they having shelter for survivors of women who are facing. So we are beginning to see that, but it is never enough. So I'm saying we are happy that there is we need more political will. That's the way I would put it. We need more government to be very intentional addressing this specific issue. And until we do that, we need to start looking at, for example, there are reports, there are not enough data. So we need to be making sure that there are data, intentionally gathering this data and using it for programming so that they know that this exists. How did we get Violence Against Persons Prohibition Law that is in place? And even at that, they said we should have a register, okay, where all these cases, what was the intention? The intention is that if somebody has been accused or been sentenced to say that this person has done that, the person cannot get job anywhere, or you cannot go to a place to say that I'm looking for a place to work, and the person goes into the register and says, is this person something? That's what is happening over there. So I am saying that let's obey the law. The laws are there. Most of the violence, the violence against persons prohibition have been domesticated in about 34 states in the country, but is the law biting? Can it bite? So I think that, for me, is the government. Let them be intentional. Yes, and then let's also build the capacity and strengthen the systems of local, community-based organizations. Because they are at the community level, they know what is going on. I know several times I went to the north to go and train, what's it called? Train the police officers, community-based organization, in even identifying, when these things happen, because they don't know.
We're going to end this conversation now, but no one said anything about the role of traditional rulers in the north, especially where it has to do with honor killings. What has their place been? If you can summarize that, Mrs. Ajayi, real short, because we need to wrap up.
Okay, for me, I always say tradition and religion are the twin tools of patriarchy. So these leaders have to be intentional about tackling violence against women. Because the thing is that violence against women impacts on everyone, impacts on the nation's economy, and I think that the government needs to invest more in research on violence against women. But yes, like she said, the traditional leaders and religious leaders need to be trained to be more sensitive, because oftentimes they bring these cases before them, not even to law enforcement agencies, and they treat this as private affairs, domestic issues. But then what we're saying is that we do not want these issues to be private affairs anymore. We do not want it to be personal anymore. We want it to be political issues, because the personal is political.
Yeah. So, first off, unlearn for the traditional rulers, and then instill the proper way of attending to these issues.
Yes.
Wow, very interesting.
Ladies, we must say thank you.
Yes, indeed.
Thank you so much, Mrs.
Very robust conversation.
Ironsi, and also to you as well, Mrs. Ololade Ajayi. It's been quite the conversation that we've had here about femicide in Nigeria, tackling the rise in violence against women and girls. That's all of it we can take for this time. When we come back, I know you made a resolution for a new you and a new body, but the question is, has the steam run out? After the break, stay with us.
How many days? Come on.
You don't know.
Thank you very much, ladies.
Thank you.
It's a new year, and for many of us, that means setting bold resolutions to prioritize health and fitness. But let's be honest, by February, lots of those goals are going to start gathering dust alongside last year's gym membership card, or maybe last month's gym membership card. But all the same, so the question is, how can we stay committed to a healthier lifestyle and turn those resolutions into long-term habits?
So, joining us today to share, well, expert advice and actionable tips is none other than Faith Taminu, fitness coach and wellness advocate. Thank you very much, Faith, for joining us. Please, I'll have to ask you to find a long sleeve shirt. I don't like that your biceps are exposed. You're oppressing people like me. But thank you for joining us, Faith. All right, Faith, let's talk about this. New year, new goals. Many people start the year motivated but lose steam after a while. So what's your advice for staying consistent with fitness resolutions this year?
Okay, so having set into the new year, so primarily, if you're trying to keep focus, stay on the grind, on a fitness journey without deviating, one of the key things you have to do is prioritizing consistency over intense training. That's one of the goals you should look out for. Yeah, as most people, starting the new year, they come to the gym, all trying to go all hard, get those weights down, and bombarding here, every week, just going haphazardly with workouts. Yeah, so you should have a goal. Yeah, there's a goal for that. You should have a goal for that, and also, like I said, consistency over intensity. So if you should prioritize, let's say you want to do a run every day, you could keep a time frame or an interval for that. Let's say 20 to 30 minutes every day. That will keep you on track to give you progress. So you're able to check your progress or your track on how far you're going on with that particular goal. If you're trying to build muscle and you say, okay, I'll do 10 push-ups every day. Yeah, so let's say weekly you increase by 5. That will give you a track record on how far you're going, not just going on and just bombarding or going all hard with the workouts and you can't even keep up in a couple of weeks' time. So that's one of the key things to do. So one is, like I said, consistency over intensity. Another is focusing on strength training. Strength training is very key. Strength training is very key. If you can't have access to the gym, one of the key things to look out for are calisthenic workouts. Yeah. So calisthenics are primary bodyweight workouts. You do bodyweight workouts at home, squats, push-ups, core exercises, Kegel exercises, and a few others to mention. Yeah, right. So you focus on strength training. You can also incorporate, let's say, using light water bottles to just put that extra weight on to keep you going. Yeah, you don't have to go so hard on yourself. Just something like light water bottles to get those arms popping or get them all warmed up before you engage in something quite way more heavier than the actual weights themselves.
So yeah, consistency over intensity, and take it easy. Just take it slow. Easy peasy wins the race, right? So for beginners who want to start working out but feel very intimidated, what's the best way to ease into a fitness routine? How do I want to start? For example, I'm a lazy girl. I cannot run, or the weights look intimidating, or going to the gym and seeing people looking the way you do. It's like, where do I start from?
That's the biggest intimidation, actually. I should say it is.
First of is you have to, this comes in self-discovery. Self-discovery comes in about knowing your body type. There are 3 body types. You have ectomorphs, mesomorphs, and endomorphs. Yeah, so mesomorphs are pretty much very bulkier people. Yeah, very bulkier. You have endomorphs are in between, and ectomorphs are very slim people. So you know yourself, know your body type is one thing to look out for before joining the gym. Yeah, and also once you go in, you opt in for a personal trainer or you seek the guidance of a personal trainer. I mean, my gym, if you can't afford a personal trainer, the personal trainer will go a long way to do you a fitness assessment. Yeah, they'll do a fitness assessment, which is you check your BMI, your fat mass, your muscle mass, your visceral fats, and also your body mass. That gives you indexes on how to go about your workouts. Then they also get to like structure out one workout routine for you, depending on the goal you're having. Yeah. Then before that, I think you might want to seek the advice of the doctor. That's what's called a pre-medical history. So you do a pre-medical history to see what's going on. Either you have some ailments, or you have cardiac failures, or I mean, just to see how far your body could keep up with the routines that are going to be prescribed by the fitness trainer to you. Yeah, so that's what we do. Just as, for instance, the cadets, the cadets that go to the NDA, yeah, before they join the NDA, Nigerian Defense Academy, we have certain pre-medical histories done for them. We go for medical tests over and over again to see how far these cadets can push through before getting conscripted into the Army or Air Force or Navy. Yeah, so now, that's what we look out.
Faith, if I was to take up my shirt, I swear to God, I work out. I work out like almost I take a walk every single day. And here's my excuse. It's my diet. Because I do actually do work out. But I also think that food and eating habit has a very big role to play. So if I'm going to go into 2025 looking towards being better when it comes to my fitness, how should I apply my diet?
All right, so first off, I will start with what's the fitness goal? You start by asking what's the fitness goal of the client or the person. Let's say, okay, looking at you right now, I presume you want to bodybuild or tune up per se. If you allow me to say that, you want to tune up, is that?
I guess, yes. Tune up is good. Yes, thank you.
Perfect. So,
He's not asking you, Judith. Wait, let him do me first. Go ahead. Yes, the tune up, what do I need to do? How do I need to eat?
All right. Perfect. So for dieting, you have to look out for your essential fatty acids, your omegas, omega-3, omega-6, and omega-9. You also have to look out for vitamins, but these are very essentials to keep you up and running. But they replace electrolytes, they replace certain vitals that are being worn out during your exercises. So you look out for that. You also look out for food. So having a proportion, your carbs, your protein, and your fats in the right proportion is very key. So you might be looking out for a dietitian to have a structured workout meal plan to get you on that goal. Okay. Yes. So having said that, you're also going to look out for what the timing where you get to have these meals intermittently because of the session, because of the routine. Also bearing in mind the duration of the exercise. Yes, so the duration of the exercise is not about how hard you go, like I said. So the duration of the exercise, the intensity of the exercise, and also go longer to have you know the moderation of food, the moderation of supplements you need to keep you up and running. So you have an ectomorph physique. Yes, so you starting off with body. I presume you might have started push-ups and a few other exercises.
Yeah, I can do about 40 standing up.
Hey.
So standing up. But let's ask Judith what she wants. Judith, what do you want, bulk or
I'm fairly fit. I'm fairly fit to a certain degree. It's just I have a body dysmorphia in my mind. I want to look like I'm size 8. Faith, this is the truth. Don't you? Yeah, I really want to be a size. I want to be a skinny girl so bad, but at the same time, I want to look like
Judith.
Beyonce.
That's a good point you just noted, and I'm going to direct this to Faith now. If I'm a real big person and I want to be a skinny person, are there dangers to going that far that quick? And how should I pace myself? Is 2025 the 1 year that I need, or do I need longer to be able to achieve that? Or is it even necessary at all?
Right. So first, you have to set realistic goals. Yeah, there are goals. People come in, oh, I'm weighing like, so take for instance, someone is weighing 100 kg, and the person could be like, oh, I want to weigh 70 at the end of the month. That's a very unrealistic goal. In fact, 80 is an unrealistic goal. 90, in fact, 95 is close to being unrealistic, because you might have to put in way more effort than your body can literally sustain in the course of these routines. Yeah, so one is setting realistic goals, then also taking caution for the exercises, the right exercises to do. I mean, there are different body parts, you have different routines, so taking it slowly, following a very structured routine, and also the duration of exercise should be from as mild to a bit intense, not so overly intense, because your body needs to take this exercise as you know, that's coming slowly, not just on a dash. You have to go full on it. So it's coming in slowly, so you take it step by step. Then also the meals incorporated too. I mean, so take for instance, someone is trying to move in from the instance she gave. You also checking for when to cut off certain things. Also, as regards unhealthy meals and when to have certain foods. Right. Then also, we're humans. Occasionally, you might have indulgences. So it's okay once in a while, but that shouldn't put you on a long drive. Yeah, that shouldn't put you on a very, very long drive. So the food, having them at intermittent. So let's say for instance, if I should have a client who wants to drop, let's say from 100 kg to, let's say, 80 kg. Yeah, so realistically, you can drop 4 kg per month, to be realistic.
4 kg per month. That's realistic. 4 kg per month.
Extreme far, but 4 kg per month.
All right.
Yeah, I'm coming to you after the end of the show.
4 kg per month. It's fine. It's very realistic. 4 kg per month. Putting in caution the right workouts, the duration, intensity, and consistency. Then also the food, the meal plans, like I said, are key to doing that. And when to abstain from food also for a mesomorph. Yeah.
Now, we're out of time, really, we're pressed for time. So I would like for you to answer this question of mine very succinctly and quickly. It's about people who target certain areas. There are some men who want to lose belly fat. There's some women who want to grow their glutes, you know, and there are some persons who they want to target their arm fat, right? So there's certain, you know, criteria. They want to do certain things. You know, they like their body, but they want to do that.
Targeted
approach.
Is
it possible to spot lose weight, and is it possible to spot gain weight in certain places?
Good question.
Thank you, sir.
Like, if I get correctly, to stop losing weight in certain places and start gaining weight in certain places, right?
Yes.
It's very possible. It's very possible. So this was going to happen once the fitness assessment is done for a client. That gives the personal trainer key index to put the person on a specific workout routines. So let's say I have a client who wants to lose body fat, build glutes, that's the bum muscles, and also lose arm fats. So primarily we'll have a workout routine that goes like put you on certain days for certain routines while we engage on cardio. We'll be doing strength training while engaging on cardio routines. So the strength training workouts will actually help you tune up faster while building muscles in those areas, and tuning up while the cardio routine will help you shred out while you're engaging on the workouts, the strength training workouts. It's very good, and also backed up with the right protein, the right carbs, the right fats, essential fats, like I said, your omegas, your omega 9, 3, 6, and the likes. That will give you a very key, and also vitamins. Vitamins are very key for recovery. They will help you recover faster. And also, if you hit the gym the next day, or depending on the workout routine or the days you're having to engage on these workouts, so it will help you follow through.
Faith, we're pretty much done.
For trying to lose fat and also gain muscles in the right places.
Okay then, Faith, we're pretty much done, but real quickly, please, for belly fat, yes, you mentioned it before, but I need you to be specific. What are the little things that we should start doing now in just a minute? Because I'm interested as well. How do you lose belly fat from home?
So belly fat are very, they're stubborn. They're stubborn. So if You don't just dash into them like that. So you follow them key. So the muscles on the abs, on the abdominal cavity, are a lot. They're quite a bit. So you have the mid, the sides, and the lower abs, right? So this is what you do. For every exercise, I would recommend at least doing 3 exercises to hit each muscle groups: your upper abs, your lower abs, and your obliques. That's the workouts on the sides here. Mm-hmm. That will go a long way to actually
Specifically, Faith, can we bring you in next week to give us a display and focus exactly on that, on how to lose belly fat? Here in the studio, you giving us a visual display of what
I'll be glad to.
We're on. I'll bring my gym wear.
I'll be glad to show you demos on how to engage on these muscles and trim up in the shortest time possible.
Thank you very much. I'll be looking forward. Faith, we want to say thank you very much for joining us for Sunday and giving us these expert advice when it comes to fitness come 2025. Yeah. Thank you very much.
Faith, thank you. Faith Tani Moore there. He is a fitness trainer, just giving us a bit of insight there on losing weight and staying fit for 2025. New year, new you. Healthier habits to stay fit. Pretty much that's all we can take for today. I want to say thank you for tuning in for our second episode for 2025 and the very first Sunday for the year.
We're done with our first weekend. Thank you for being a part of it. And what conversation we had, especially that one on femicide, very interesting. And the Borno instance with people being resettled is a very heartwarming thing, actually. We started good, we ended good this weekend. Join us again next weekend when it's another installment for Breakfast Extra. Until then, my name is Mazima Appeal, will remain so, and
I'm Judith at TV. I'll see you on Saturday.
I'll see you all over the week.
I'll see you on Monday anyway. Bye.
Everywhere.
Everywhere. You see us, Shaba. Bye.